sometimes we find ourselves challenged.
It's going to be a Texan touchdown.
Sometimes we find ourselves cornered.
And it's 24-0 Houston.
But sometimes we find ourselves destined.
It's a race, he will win! Anthony Hitchens reads it. Now he's going to gun it long. The ball is picked up by Ragland. Touchdown! Kansas City got it in the end zone. Touchdown! Honey Badger doesn't care.
Do something special. One play at a time. Do something special.
And for the second consecutive year, the Chiefs will host the AFC Championship game.
Kansas City, let's bring it home.
Difficult roads often lead to beautiful destinations. And for the Kansas City Chiefs and Tennessee Titans, who kick off in about an hour for the AFC title, the journey continues for one down in Miami 2 weeks from today in Super Bowl 54. And if you're one who believes in destiny, the poetic, predetermined manuscripts of our greatest moments of triumph, think about this. It's the 100th year of the NFL, the 60th year of the Chiefs franchise, and the 50th anniversary of our lone Super Bowl victory back in Super Bowl IV. The writing is on the wall, the stage has been set, but just in case you missed something over the last week, we've got you covered. I am BJ Kissel, and this is Shawn Barber, and this is Field Pass, and we appreciate you for tuning in. Over the last few weeks, more than 500,000 of you have tuned into this show to get all the latest news and updates for the Chiefs game, and we appreciate everybody for tuning in. Shawn, it was this time a year ago that everybody was just hoping you could wishing you just snap your fingers and we'd be right back in this moment. That can't be the case. The challenge was different, the journey was different, the obstacles were different, but we're right back to where we wanted to be.
Andy Reid had a vision. He set his goal. The goal was for this team to take another step forward, to continue to grow as a team and an organization. And the Chiefs Kingdom, as they're here now today to stamp their passport to Miami, they're ready for it today. Let's go, baby.
And all week the talk, if it wasn't about Derrick Henry, it was about the health of Chris Jones. That's what everybody wants to know right now. So let's quickly throw it to Matt McMullen, who's got today's inactives. He was at the officials meeting. Matt, what do we got?
Thanks, BJ. Well, the big news of the afternoon, Chris Jones is active and playing here this afternoon. Jones, of course, was a game-time decision with that calf injury, and he is active this afternoon for the Chiefs, bolstering that defensive line. This has been the best defense in the NFL since Week 11, and Jones is a big part of that. So good to see him out there for the first time this postseason. A few notable inactives for the Chiefs here today. Tailback LaShawn McCoy and offensive guard Andrew Wiley. They will not be playing this afternoon for the Chiefs. For the Titans, they had 7 guys listed as questionable coming into this one. All those guys are playing. So really on both sides, a lot of relative weeks into the NFL season here for the title game. Good to see. One quick nugget, BJ. Eric Fisher, one of the guys that didn't play in that first matchup against the Titans 2 months ago, he's obviously playing here this afternoon. The Chiefs are 9-0 when he plays. So obviously a big little nugget there. He'll be out there along with the rest of this Chiefs team. Chris Jones, everybody. Excited to see what we can do going for the Lamar Hunt Trophy here this afternoon. BJ, back to you.
Thanks, Matt. Good news. Everybody's excited to hear that Chris Jones is going to play. That's obviously a huge lift for the Chiefs defense. And as if this city didn't need another reason to explode, it seems like all week there's been so much buildup, Shawn, that the fact that Chris is playing and fans were out here at 1:30 in the morning lined up in the parking lots to come in here and tailgate. This city is ready for this moment.
Definitely. He has the ability to play with such leverage, creating speed to power. He's such a unique individual on the defensive line trying to block. Their old line is something that we have to deal with, but them trying to stop one Chris Jones from getting not only to the quarterback, making an impact in the run game, that's something that Tennessee got to reckon with.
Yeah, and Chris has been playing. We didn't play in the game last week, but over this 7-game winning streak that the Chiefs are currently on, they've been outscoring their opponents 31-14, and obviously that's going to be a huge challenge against the Titans team today, that over their last 3 games, all on the road, all against playoff teams, they haven't allowed more than 14 points. Now, they didn't have to play the reigning MVP in any of those games, but the Titans are looking to be the 3rd 6th seed since 1990 to advance to the Super Bowl. It was the 2005 Steelers and the 2010 Packers that did that, and they've got a huge challenge with the Chiefs today.
Hey, we talk about the Titans having that playoff mentality, but they don't want to remember weeks 15 and 16 when they had 2 losses, when everything's on the line, and they had 2 losses in the division. But now they want to just remember a playoff. They want to remember what they did to the Ravens. I remember them giving up 530 yards to the Ravens. The Ravens didn't convert on 2 fourth downs, only led to 13 or 12 points. But all in all, if they let us get 500 yards, that scoreboard's going to be lit up.
Yeah, and any offense by Andy Reid, we saw 525 yards in the Week 10 matchup between these two teams. And one of the interesting things, and I think you bring a great perspective to this, is there's been a lot of sentiment throughout the week about Andy Reid and about guys who have played for him, guys on the current team and guys who used to play for him that want this so badly for him to get back to a Super Bowl and to get him over that hump, to get him a Super Bowl title. This is the 7th time in 21 seasons as a head coach that he's advanced to the conference title game. As somebody who played for him before, why is that the case? Why do guys feel such a strong way about trying to get him back to a Super Bowl?
Andy Reid is one of the coaches in the league that they built a legacy of being a player's coach. That has nothing to do about being your friend. That has to do with the way he attacks the season. He sets up everything. The entire environment is for the players to be able to learn the system and go out and perform and play at a high level throughout the season. So we're going to go out, everybody here, the entire stadium. I know there are some people who love the Eagles, but today they're hoping for the Chiefs to win.
Yeah, like I said, we have got a great show, and you make a great point about Andy Reid, and there's a reason that everybody that used to play for him or coach with him, everybody is rooting for him in this game. He's also the only coach of the Final Four left who's advanced this far in his career. You look at Kyle Shanahan with the 49ers, Matt LaFleur with the Packers, and then Mike Vrabel, all young coaches, none of which have the experience that Andy Reid does, and that could, and we hope, comes into play today. But Shawn, as we get into our first point to watch in this game, and for me, and for you as Chiefs people, we're going to start with Patrick Mahomes. Everybody else nationally is talking about Derrick Henry, and we'll talk about that later in the show. But let's start with the reigning MVP and the best player in football, and Patrick Mahomes, who at 24 years old has now, in his 2 seasons as a starter, led the Chiefs to back-to-back AFC Championship games at home.
Pat Mahomes is terrific at keeping the vision down the field. He's able to attack the team, the defense on every level of the defense. Deep balls, intermediate balls, screens and draws. The entire field is open when Pat Mahomes has the ball in his hand, and he's also elusive. So you got to be aware of him running the ball, but also he can fling it at anything. He's shown you these conditions are wonderful. No wind, sunny day. Man, Pat Mahomes, 500 yards coming your way.
You brought up 2 great points and 2 things that were on display last week. If you caught any of the mic'd up or the great content that 65 TPT and the Chiefs creative team put together, you saw the leadership against the Texans when they were down 24-0 from Patrick Mahomes, which is pretty amazing for a guy. We give him all this credit, and he's taken the NFL world by storm. He's still 24 years old. He's still a 3rd-year NFL player, just a 2nd year as a starter. But I think you brought up another great point, and his ability to scramble ended up being a huge turning point in that game last week against the Houston Texans. And you think back to the Week 10 matchup against the Tennessee Titans in Nashville. It was Mahomes' first game back from that knee injury that cost him a few games in the middle of the season. And when they played the Texans, there was a huge chunk of the playbook that was completely taken out because Mahomes wasn't as mobile as he normally is. And that didn't really stop him from putting up numbers. 446 yards, the 2nd most passing yards Mahomes has had in his career was against the Titans back in Week 10. 3 touchdowns, and again, he's going up against the 26th ranked pass defense in the Titans. Everybody's talking about Derrick Henry for good reasons, phenomenal player, but this Titans defense still has to try to figure out a way to stop Patrick Mahomes.
From the 20-yard line to the 20-yard line, it's going to be easy pickings for Pat Mahomes. He'll pick this zone or man, it doesn't matter. Against our offense, Pat Mahomes will matriculate the ball down the field ease. It's that red zone defense that the Titans have hung their hat on, keeping you to field goal attempts instead of touchdowns. That's where it's going to come down to today.
Yeah, and like I said, back in Week 10, they put up 32 points, 525 yards of total offense, averaged 7 yards per play. But when you look at the Titans defense, the pass defense has struggled, but it's not necessarily overall due from a lack of talent because they do have a couple of guys back there that are among the best in the league at what they do. Kevin Byard, their safety, is one of the best safeties in football, as an all-pro last year. And then Logan Ryan, slot corner, is going to be one of those interesting guys to see where he lines up because arguably their best cornerback was Malcolm Butler, and he was their best outside guy. He got put on IR earlier this season, so they do not have him available. So Logan Ryan is that next guy. He's better in the slot. Where does he play today? And then Adoree Jackson. He's got some speed. He isn't as refined as a corner as some of those other guys that you've seen. Not a guy who's necessarily going to match up with Tyreek Hill in the nuances of route running, but he does have the athletic ability. When you've studied the Titans defense, particularly that back end of that secondary, what stood out to you?
Well, they're very opportunistic. They're going to bait you into making some throws. They'll give up a hook route to come back later and steal it for a pick six. They'll give up an out route in order to sit on it and make you think it's a drop coverage where they're bailing, and then they come over and try to make a play on the ball. So Adoree Jackson, like you said, and Logan, Ryan, and Barn, Kevin, those guys are all very good at disguising their coverage in order to create a turnover.
Yep. One of the other big storylines before we throw it to Mitch Holthus right here. To me, the story of this game is going to be the red zone for both teams, because the Titans' red zone offense, they score 76% of the time. It's the best in the league. The Titans' red zone defense, second to last in the league, allowing touchdowns 68% of the time. And the reason it's important is the last time these two teams met back in Week 10, the Chiefs fell by 3 points. They got inside the 30 7 times, only walked away with 2 touchdowns. And the Titans kicker Greg Joseph, has not attempted a field goal all season. This could be the first time he attempts a field goal. So for me, it's if the Titans between the 20s get down into the red zone, can the Chiefs force field goals? Because the Titans can't afford that. Yeah. And that's what's going to stand out to me. But right now, we're going to throw it to Mitch Holthus with our story time, and he's got some stories about some guys that aren't here today that were a part of building this to be in this position.
As you guys know, I have my favorite places in the Chiefs Kingdom. I also have my favorite places in Arrowhead Stadium. And one is down on the ground level, right here, this hallway that I'll travel a couple times a month and for sure several times on game day. But I love this hallway. It reminds me of the past, the present, and hope for the future of the Chiefs Kingdom. It also reminds me that I wish there were guys that had the opportunity to be with the current Chiefs team in playing today for the AFC Championship, as the Chiefs make history hosting the AFC Championship back-to-back for the first time in the 60 years of the franchise, and only the 7th time in the 60-year history of the AFL AFC Championship game. Guys like Alex Smith, or a Derrick Johnson, or a Jamaal Charles, who didn't get the chance to play in a championship game like this. But going down this hallway, well, just an example right here. Damian Williams today will get a chance to play for a Super Bowl once again. He already has shattered franchise records for touchdowns in the postseason. It makes me think, too, of a man who was lost too soon, in the late Joe Delaney, who never got a chance to play in an AFC Championship game. It also reminds me of a guy like Kevin Ross, and the Chiefs will need his guts today against the Titans. But when I make this turn, I think of Tony Gonzalez, a brilliant career, and never played for an AFC Championship game, although he is in Pro Football's Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. And this mural is indicative. Dante Hall, an electrifying returner, never had a shot at playing for the Super Bowl in a Chiefs uniform. Nor did Tony Richardson, who was one of the most unsung heroes and gentlemen of his time here in Kansas City. Wendell Hayes did. He was on those great Chiefs teams of the late 60s. So here we are, again, the AFC Championship game. And yes, I'm locked on today's game, but you got to give me a little latitude here, because I'm also thinking about the past and hope for the short-term and long-term future of the Chiefs Kingdom.
Great stuff right there from Mitch Holthus, as always. Shawn, one of the underrated storylines that hasn't been discussed a whole lot this week is the fact that the Tennessee Titans are playing their 4th consecutive road game.
Yes.
And it cannot be easy. And it's not very likely that the Titans can go on the road and beat the number 1, the number 2, and the number 3 seeds on the road to go to the Super Bowl. At some point, it's their bodies and everything that they're going through is going to catch up to them. Is it going to happen? As a former player, what does that do to your body, and do you think it's going to happen today?
Not only the amount of hydration and dehydration, taking the plane rides, going to the hotels, not having your normal nutrition and what you want to eat, not sleeping in a normal bed, all of those things play a factor. It makes you feel like it's you against the world, but after a whole month, going to the Texans, then going to the Patriots, now going to the Ravens, now having to come in this environment, eventually human nature takes over and you realize, hey, Cinderella, it's midnight.
Especially when you got the temperatures in the 20s, the wind chill is going to put it down in the single digits, and those aches and pains, we talked about it last week coming off the game against the Houston Texans. If they get up early, those aches and pains kind of go away, but if they get behind and they got to muster up that energy to fight back, that's when they may start to feel a little bit more, especially with a team that's so physical up front, especially in the offensive line. Those are grinders. They're ground and pound. That's what they're doing. That makes those aches and pains start to feel a little bit more when you get in the trenches and you try to take care of business like that.
Man, our offensive line, punish and protect. Punish their D-line at the line of scrimmage and protect Mahomes. They got 2 jobs to do, and they've been doing those things at such a high level all season long. We continue to roll. We continue to pound these boys, and eventually in the second half, it pays due.
Yeah, and as Matt McMullen talked about earlier in the show, Eric Fisher, Chiefs are 9-0 when he plays in the game. He didn't play back in Week 10, obviously, because they lost that game. And then Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, starting right guard, he didn't play in that Week 10 game either. So, you know, as far as in the trenches, all the games, all the highlights and all the stuff, always the little guys on the outside making plays. But games are won in the trenches, especially this one. So right now, we're going to throw it to Matt McMullen, who caught up earlier with the Ringer's Kevin Clark to talk about the Titans' defense and what the Chiefs' offense is going to be dealing with.
Thanks, BJ. Well, Kevin, we saw the Titans defense earlier this season, but for whatever reason, they're just playing at a much higher level than they did 2 months ago. They're protecting leads, tight leads, and turning the ball over. What gives this defense? Why is it playing so well in the postseason?
Well, I think it's interesting. I was in training camp with the Titans. I met with John Robinson, and we talked a little bit about the quote-unquote Patriot way. John Robinson was in New England. Mike Vrabel was in New England. What does that mean? It means steady, dependable veterans, guys like Logan Ryan, who actually came from New England, flexible guys, smart guys. I think that if you think about Dean Pease, defensive coordinator, who's been around this league for a long time, and just their ability to change on the fly, it's very Patriots-esque, it's very Vrabel-esque, and I'm not surprised at the type of defense with someone like, Adoree Jackson's always been good. Kevin Byard's been the best safety in football, or one of the best safeties in football for a number of years. The talent has always been there. It's not a surprise that they've gotten better as the season goes on.
Another veteran is Jarrell Casey. He was not there the last time he played against this team. Why is he so special to this defense?
I mean, he's a game wrecker, and he's the type of guy where even if he's not getting pressure, he's such a big force. He can get a hand up, and just in a league where I'm fascinated by the fact that guys get the ball out so quickly now. Guys get the ball out in 2 seconds, 1.5 seconds, and sometimes an edge rusher or somebody going after the quarterback like that, he might not get there every time. But if you can just push the pocket back, that's the type of pressure that really affects a game. And that's what Jarrell Casey does.
Definitely. Well, this Chiefs offense, just man for man, is more talented than this Titans defense. Sure. But Mike Vrabel, he knows what he's doing. He's been doing this a long time as both a player and now as a coach. He's going to scheme something up. What do you anticipate this Titans defense doing to scheme up against this Chiefs offense?
Well, I think, listen, there's a lot of ideas you can have about stopping Patrick Mahomes, but they're better on paper than in practice. Things like roughing up the receivers, stuff that we've seen Belichick do, certainly, where maybe you try to disrupt their timing, stuff like that. But I think it's going to be really hard. I think they're going to need a lot of luck. I mean, you look at someone like Lamar Jackson last week, and he had the second most total yards in the history of the playoffs last week in a loss. They got lucky on a couple of things. They stopped him on 2 crucial 4th downs, which, all more power to them. But I think it's going to take a lot of breaks and the scheme stuff and disrupting receivers' timing. I think it's going to take a Herculean effort from Tennessee to slow down this Chiefs offense.
Well, I'm biased. I hope it doesn't happen here today. I hope this Titans defense cannot stop Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs offense. Kevin, appreciate your time. Thanks. BJ, back to you.
Hey, we promoted this show all week, and we told you we had a big one, and look who's here. We've got the guy who rushed for more yards than anybody else in franchise history, and the guy who tackled more dudes than anybody else in franchise history, talking Jamaal Charles, Derrick Johnson. And guys, the first thing I want to ask, we've spent time together. I've asked you about what it's meant to you to play here. You guys signed the one-day contracts. You've gone it all. But now that you're down here on the field for a game like this, you see the 56 jerseys, you see the 25 jerseys. Just when you think back on your career here, what does it mean for you to step into this building and see all the support and still feel it from Chiefs Kingdom?
Humble, man. It's an honor just to play here for as long as I did, and able to see this franchise even to be successful to this day as I leave. I'm just a happy guy, and I'm proud that this organization, they're first class to me.
Definitely, and when Jamaal said it, humble is the first word you think of when you walk back in this stadium. They give us so much love. The leading rusher and the guy that tackled the most people. So that's a pretty special moment for us.
Man, love comes down from the sea of red. But let's talk about the relationship we all have with Andy Reid. Andy Reid, before, when you're at the hotel, the one thing he always says, let your personality show. What does that mean to hear those words? And you can think about what the team is thinking as they hit the field today.
Well, you're at your best when you let your personality show. Whoever you are, when you get out on the field, don't hold back at all. Let that show. Be accountable to your teammates, and good things happen. So Andy Reid's a great example of that.
I feel like when I played in the past, when the coaches like just go out there, when I heard Coach Reid say that, I was like, man, I can be myself now, so I don't gotta act like this and that. So I'm glad like to have a coach like Andy Reid, man, so humble, just able to coach me and take my career to another level. One time out of all season, he came down to Port Arthur and presented my trophy to me that my city gave to me in my hometown. He didn't have to do that, so that just tell you about a guy like that, man. He's not big. He's humble, and he's got nothing but love for me.
All right, now the Chiefs getting ready to play in the AFC title game. As you've been following the stories throughout the week, just how do you feel about today's game?
I feel good, man. I feel like the Chiefs, they've been rocking all year long. They playing against a great team, but I think the vision in their eye, the division where they got to go is there. So I know that they're not letting nobody stopping this time.
Yeah, definitely. At the end of the day, we got to stop Derrick Henry, you know. And when it gets cold, and you know this shot. When it gets cold, you don't want to tackle, like you usually do when it's hot. But I tell you what, you got to make a decision today. Hit this guy in the mouth, maybe in the legs, and get him on the ground.
You said it. Business decisions will be made, and every decision is another step getting us to Miami. We got to take the Pistons. We talk about taking the Pistons away. That's how you kill the engine. They got a few Pistons.
Yep.
They got Brown, right? They got the quarterback Tannehill.
Yep.
They got Henry.
Yep.
They got a couple Pistons on offense, and they got some guys on defense. Once we take those guys out of the game and the engine is killed, it's time for the Kansas City Chiefs defensively and offensively to take over. Who are you watching today on the defense and offense as far as needs to play at a high level for this to be a kill shot?
You know what? Matthews is a guy that plays in the back end. He plays a linebacker. He plays safety, corner. He can do it all, but he's kind of the glue to the defense right now. And I want to see him get that defense together and just make some big-time plays, moments that create momentum for the whole team.
I say the whole entire defense, me. I feel like I ain't gonna shout out one player. I feel like they all got to come together and make this happen today. You know what I'm saying? The defense has got to go through them today. And the offense, I know they're gonna do their job because they got a great offensive coach, Andy Reid over there. He's gonna get the job done. He's not gonna let this one more time go by one more time. So I just say the defense got to come together and be there all on one.
If you're curious what the loud noise is, Chris Jones just ran out onto the field. As you see him right there going as usual, going and seeing the fans. He's not too far from us right now. Now, Jamaal and DJ, before we let you go, got to ask, if the Chiefs, or when the Chiefs get this win, and you see Andy Reid, you see Clark Hunt hold up the Lamar Hunt trophy as guys who put their blood, sweat, and tears into this organization, what's it going to mean to you to see that visual?
Oh, that's going to mean a lot. Just to say that I've been trying to get to that trophy since I played here, man, and able to see them get that trophy for the final. I used to hear Clark Hunt say that speech every year before the season started training camp. And I always wanted to get there and get presented there, but it always was a failure for me. But to able to be there now, and I think to do that, man, I would be so happy and so proud of this organization, man, and Coach Reid, and I'll just be feeling like I want to jump on the field too. Like, hey.
See, that was perfect, Jamaal. That's what we think of. Think of Clark Hunt coming up at training camp saying, "Hey, guys, we got to get this Lamar Hunt trophy." Yep. Like that, and then that'll get you to the big dance. Today, you got a great opportunity. So, what better way in your own house to take it home?
And on behalf of Chiefs Kingdom and everybody else, stating the obvious, but your guys' leadership, your guys' legacies are in part how they got into this position, and nobody is going to forget that. So right now, we are going to throw it to Matt McMullen, who caught up with Yahoo Sports senior NFL writer Terez Paylor earlier today. What do you got, Matt?
Thanks, BJ. Well, Terez, the guys just talked about how special Derrick Henry is. We know he's the best back in the NFL right now. It's hard to stop him. But specifically on the Chiefs defense, how do they slow him down here today?
Well, you've got a couple different options. You can try to load the box on him, but he's had success on that because he's outstanding on regular gap plays and he's outstanding on outside zone. So if you load the box, he might take advantage of it either way. Or you could do what the Patriots did, kind of let him get his, clamp up in the red zone. It's up to the Chiefs. All I know is that in certain situations, you're going to have to handle Derrick Henry, and you're going to have to get key stops. One other thing I got to mention here, very important for the Chiefs defense, if you can handle the play action, you got to be able to do it. This team, Tennessee, gets most of their passing yards. They hurt you deep on play action shots. So you got to be disciplined with your eyes, stay in the mix there and anticipate them when you can, be fundamentally sound. If the Chiefs can contain Henry in certain situations, don't get fooled by eye candy on play action, and basically compete. Like, we know these guys compete. They got a great chance to win this game.
That's my next question. What gives you confidence the secondary can win against Tannehill off that play action?
Well, I think there's some real leaders in the secondary, and the players back there are pretty doggone talented. Listen, Tennessee's pretty defined about what they want to do. They tell you who they are based on what they're trying to do. This is not a team that's out here trying to sling it. That's not what they want to do. They want to establish the run and win with the pass off that. So because of that, you got to prioritize what you want to do defensively too. You stop the run with them, and then anticipate when they're going to try to hit you with that play action. And then, all this stuff is on tape. Everything Tennessee wants to do offensively is on tape. It's just about being fundamentally sound enough to stop it and physical. You have to match this team's offensive physicality.
This has been the best defense in the NFL since Week 11. To keep it up here today?
I think so. I'm picking the Chiefs to win. I think they're the better football team, and I think they're tired of hearing about Derrick Henry defensively. I do. Look, Henry's a great football player, but that's all this talk has been about this week, how great he is. I'll also tell you this. The fact the Chiefs lost to this team a couple months ago is a reminder they can be beaten by them. So they have every reason in the world to come out here and compete. And I know the Titans are going to pull the nobody believed in us card, but the Chiefs will be able to kind of do the same thing because they lost to this Titans team 2 months ago, and all everyone's talking about is Derrick Henry.
The People's Champ has confidence in the Chiefs defense here today, which means I do too. BJ, back to you.
All right, good stuff as always from Therese Paylor, and we appreciate that, Matt. And Shawn, one of the things that caught wind earlier this week, or just a few days ago, was James Palmer from NFL Network reported basically his conversation with Frank Clark, talking about how he didn't think it was difficult to tackle Derrick Henry. And anybody who's ever spent time around Frank Clark should not be surprised at that statement. This guy has been like this from the beginning. I'll never forget, Shawn, first day of OTAs. First time he was out there on his teammates competing against this record-breaking Chiefs offense, the reigning MVP and Patrick Mahomes. He's a new guy. You don't know how he's going to feel his way into it. They get a rep, the defense wins a rep, and he's screaming at Mahomes in the offense, this ain't last year, with another word that I can't use on this family-friendly program. If that gives you any insight as to how Frank Clark, the reason that he's one of the best in the league is he has that mindset. He has that mindset because he's one of the best in the league. As a former defensive guy, you saw the comments. What did you think about that?
Man, Frank Clark wasn't here to change a defense that was already here. They didn't bring him as an addition. They scrapped it. They brought Coach Spags in, allow him to change everything. And Frank wanted to be known from day one. This is not last year. We're setting a whole new tempo, a whole new demand, accountability from top down. This team, this defense is going to go out and hunt. They're going to hunt as a pack. And no man, Derrick Henry, don't matter who you are, no man gets away from this pack.
Do you need me to put a pad on? You're going to hit something.
You know I am.
You do this every time. I knew we started talking about Derrick Henry, the former linebacker, was going to lose his mind. Anyway, let's praise it. Let's talk about Derrick Henry. The last meeting,
we give him his respect.
188 yards, 2 touchdowns the last meeting. I'll say Titans fans would take those numbers. Chiefs fans would probably take those numbers because it was the same thing he did in Week 10, and it still took the Chiefs fumbling. It still took special teams errors for the Titans to pull out that win. Chiefs play a clean game. We don't know if they can play that clean game, but if they do, it doesn't matter if he gets 188 yards and 2 touchdowns because we saw it before. To me, it's still going to come down to Ryan Tannehill taking a few deep shots. But Derrick Henry, 4.18 yards per rush after contact. It's going to take everybody swarming to get up there and make a play.
That's what we know, man. The way the defense has played here recently, it's not about one-on-one. It's not about making this one glaring tackle. It's about the defense playing, getting off of blocks, and being able to swarm to the ball carrier. He might make an initial guy miss, but the more hats you get on the ball, the better. And as they swarm and pull at that ball, it gets him thinking. All of those carries from the last 4 or 5 weeks, it starts to weigh heavy on his back. And it's not just the one carry, it's all those carries. He only has so much tread on them tires, and we're going to take the Pistons out. We're going to kill that engine.
All right, and I got to ask you, and we didn't even talk about this beforehand, so this is very raw and live right now.
We're good.
You're a linebacker. You're going up against a running back who's known for a deadly stiff arm, the deadliest stiff arm in the NFL. How do you combat that? Because we were going to see it on those DBs.
Yes.
He gets into the open field. Hopefully it doesn't happen a lot. He's running. He gets his arm out like this.
I've
You
seen
go
Coach
up.
Spags. It's part of your running
expose those
motion.
ribs.
Part of your running motion as I go to attack you. If I'm leading with my head, it allows you to stiff arm me. With my running motion, I'm uppercutting, or I'm running and I'm chopping down as I wrap you up. It's always a defensive concept. Coach Spag spends so much time teaching fundamental tackling, and that's part of the fundamentals. No matter who you are, when you come in and make that tackle, you're ready for that stiff arm. You want to run through them. You want to attack the ball, attack those pistons, and swarm to that ball.
And as much credit as Derrick Henry is given, we got to give credit to the guys up front as well. Taylor Lewan, the left tackle, and Jack Conklin, their right tackle. According to Pro Football Focus, the two best road grading offensive tackles in this league. So we know that the Titans love to go outside zone. And if you watch the tape against the Patriots and against the Baltimore Ravens last week, when Derrick Henry is going downfield and he's getting that head of steam, it's because they run outside zone, and those tackles have the defensive ends 4 yards down the field. So when he's running, Derrick Henry isn't having to run straight across the field. He's running at an angle, planting his foot, and getting up. So the challenge, as much as it's about tackling Henry, it's about not letting those defensive ends have to hold the edge and not let Henry get going downhill. Make him run perpendicular. Don't let him get that head of steam going forward. So as much as it is about Derrick Henry, it's those defensive ends. It's Frank Clark. It's Terrell Suggs not getting pushed down the field. Keep Derrick Henry from getting his momentum going north and south. That's how you're going to find success.
Hey, man, you got to fight off blocks. We're talking about their offensive line trying to create a hole. The only way they create hole is by holding. They create a hole by holding. And efficiently, in the first and second quarter, they're going to do it so much, they're going to almost challenge the referees to call it every time, knowing that a referee at some point stops calling it. And that's when you see that home breaker run hit. Every big play, there's holding. On every offensive play, you can find some holding. But especially with this Titans offensive line, they hold all across the board on every play. Referees got to make the call. Got to make it a fair game. We got to disengage and get to the ball carrier. All
right, let's take a quick nugget about Ryan Tannehill, because we haven't talked about their passing game yet, and the running game has set up their passing game. He's averaging over their 2 playoff games just 16 passes per game. This is not an offense that's going to sit back and chuck it around, which is actually funny because it's different than what everybody told us where the NFL was going. This spread offense, get around, throw it 50 times. What we see from the Chiefs, these guys, it's ground and pound. They're running it. Derrick Henry is going to run the ball 30, 35 times. It's not going to be a huge secret what these guys are doing, but when they do pass it, they've got chunk plays. They have been able to pick up chunks of plays down the field. 13.5 yards per attempt in the passing game with Ryan Tannehill. So I asked Steve Spagnuolo earlier this week, how much pressure does it put on the linebackers and on the safeties that they get this running game going? Their eyes can't be in the backfield worried about the running game. I go, how much pressure does that put on your DBs? He looked me plain in the eyes. He goes, BJ, everybody's got an assignment on every play. If your assignment is not to give up the pass and it's to make sure those deep passes, then that's what you're doing. If they are doing that, their eyes aren't in the right place and they're not doing the right things. As a former player, how do you worry about stopping the run while also making sure you get your depth and your drops?
Alignment assignment football is key. Alignment assignment football, and that's at every level. If you're a secondary guy and you're supposed to be pass first, you got to go pass first until you 100% sure it's a running game. So with that, you got to be aware of what? The flea flicker, the bootlegs, play action. All of those things is why Tannehill's been such an efficient quarterback at getting those big chunk plays. None of those things worry about me because our front seven fired with electricity from my man Chris Jones, Pennell, Noddy, Saunders. Those guys, they can hold up. They can hold up just fine, and when the secondary comes in, it's just extra hats on the ball.
You can't tell me this Chiefs defense hasn't been hearing the Derrick Henry talk all week long. These guys are fired up as if they needed any more reason to get fired up in this game. Shawn, before we let everybody go, we're about 32 minutes to kick off. What wise words of wisdom do you have?
Hey, man, no matter how the game starts, no matter if we're up by 20 or down, we stay with the process. The process is always greater than the product. And what we're looking for is not a good game, not a good series of plays, but we're trying to crush this team and create a nationwide scare. We want everybody to know what Chiefs Kingdom is doing.
As you saw in that sign right there, it is time to bring the Lamar Hunt Trophy back home to Kansas City. We appreciate everybody for watching. Make sure you tune into Chiefs Rewind after the game as Shawn and Mitch break down a game that we are all going to remember for a very, very long time. Again, we appreciate everybody for tuning in. If you're here at the stadium, make sure you're loud. If you're at home, make sure you're a part of this. Tune in after the game. This is going to be a special one for Greg Tongue, for Glenn Connolly and Anna Topkin behind the scenes. We appreciate it. Have a great night, Chiefs Kingdom.